An absolute privilege to chat with Paul Niland once again. Lifeline Ukraine. He's the founder of Lifeline Ukraine, a great service in Ukraine offering mental health services, suicide prevention for military soldiers, veterans, their families, and pretty much anyone Ukrainian worldwide at this point. He's kind enough today to join us for this full hour to talk about what is going on in Ukraine and give us an update of things on the ground. Paul, as always, just an absolute privilege to chat with you, my friend.
Hey, Matt, it's great to be back with you again. I'm not sure how many times we've done this now, 4 or 5, but it's always a good conversation. I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Well, and I want to start off with something here. We could lose you here because you now are, and I'm not sure if this was something happening before, but now they're trying to do blackouts in certain parts. I imagine throughout Ukraine throughout this process. I imagine as a power saving technique. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're once again back in the situation where we have rolling blackout. The Russian attacks on the energy infrastructure nationwide, right, across the entire country over the last couple of months have been very, very, very intense. And it underscores the argument that Ukraine has been making for a long time. We need more air defenses, right? And because we haven't had those air defenses, a huge amount of our electricity generating capacity has been destroyed. And so therefore we don't have enough power to be able to keep the lights on 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So we're in the process of attempting to rebuild what can be rebuilt. That's actually the one of the topics of the next article that I'm writing for Byline Times right now. It's tough right now. But it's also the middle of the summer. I mean, it's pleasant to go outside for a walk. This winter is going to be very, very grim. This will be my 22nd winter in Ukraine, and it will be the grimmest, I'm certain.
How often are the blackouts coming? Is it a daily? How often are you seeing it?
So we have a schedule that gets published, and it can tell you when you can expect a blackout. And we should have had one at 9 this morning. The power stayed on until 10:30, though. It just is what it is. And then sometimes the power cuts can last. So you will have at least 2, probably 3 power cuts every day. And they last from 2 hours to up to 5 hours.
This has been going on for, a few years at this point. So let's talk a little bit about the impact. Obviously, this is a major impact of life and going on. But talk a little bit about the day-to-day life of Ukrainians right now as this war rages on here. How has, obviously the threat of bombs, the threat of airstrikes, the brave soldiers still fighting on the fronts. But, as the day-to-day life for the average Ukrainian, talk about what has changed for that just in your daily, beyond blackouts and stuff like that.
It's all of those things that you list, but it's all of them on a constant basis as well. And I know that I've said to you when we've chatted before, Matt, that the thing that gets to me personally is the images of destruction that I'm constantly exposed to. In the early days, because many of my colleagues at Lifeline Ukraine are veterans. In the early days, many of them went back into military service, and that was always my fear that one of my friends is going to be seriously injured or killed in fighting. Just 2 minutes before I jumped on to record this show, I quickly looked at something on Facebook, and the first post there is one of my good friends who on the 24th of February, he was an entertainer before that. He used to be an MC that would, do English language parties, and he was one of the MCs in the stadium for Euro 2012. This is, but on the 24th of February, he said, "Give me a goddamn gun, and I'm going to go and fight." And I just saw that he's now in hospital. He looks well, and he says that he's recovering. He's having some medical treatment. But we've all lived with the constant fear of losing people who are close to us, and it's all of that, and there's a frustration as well, Matt, and it came out in my last answer that we didn't have to come to the point that our critical civilian infrastructure was destroyed to such a degree. It didn't have to be like this. Had we had better defenses in higher numbers, higher quantities earlier, we'd have saved a lot of this damage and all of this. I'm okay, you know. I'll be 52 this month, but I'm in good shape. I'm not overweight. I keep myself fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can run up and down the stairs, but it's my older neighbors, some of whom who have mobility issues that I worry about, you know. But I mean, in general, there is an air of stoic determination in that this war will be ended, and it will be ended on Ukraine's terms. And everybody here is united behind that singular thought and goal, and how do we get there? And you know, I mean, you know, Matt, one of the areas where I'm in the battle is the information space, right? And I think that's where I'm best serving Ukraine in writing the articles that I write, in you know, bringing a Ukrainian perspective into published news and a wider audience. And then, you know, the nonsense and rubbish that I have to deal with on Twitter as well, which I know that you see and you get a kick out of too.
Well, and it, you know, it is, you know, there is a spirit here, you know, and that's one of the things I follow a lot of people in Ukraine, and a lot of people that are keeping track of what's going on with the military, a lot of people talking about the daily life. And there is a spirit here which is addictive, and this is one of the. I mean, I'm 100% Ukraine. Russia is a bunch of jackasses, and you guys can't beat them fast enough, in my mind. We'll talk a little bit about the Americans and their response and getting back. But when you talk about the Russians attacking your infrastructure points, I mean, and the civilian targets, I mean, isn't this really a sign that Russia is doing so poorly in this war that all they can basically do is target what technically is like softer targets, because they can't break through the Ukrainian lines? So they're basically just doing the cowards thing and attacking, you know, random things within Ukraine, hoping it breaks the spirit of the Ukrainian people.